At the same time, as social factors change, families change as well. And so think about how the following changes have influences family. So, for example, thinking about divorce laws, marriage laws, and how that influence family types. Thinking about harsh economic times and how they influence who works in the family, and even thinking a little bit further, how the technology, such as medical advances or contraception, influences family life. Uh, Things like education, which lead to more job opportunities and perhaps greater economic security. Employment, particularly for women, that may lead to women wanting more decision making power, but also being more awareness of women's rights, which can um, lead to, again, this desire for more decision and power in the society. And so each of these social changes, individually and together, have led to changes in families. So we're talking about changes rather than stability. And we're talking about more diversity in family forms rather than homogeneous families, and a reduction of power of patriarchy. So changes in families are occurring because of the previous changes in society we just talked about. And some of them are listed here in this slide. So um, it's important that we connect what we learn in the slides instead of just reading about it. So for example, let's connect what we just said about social change with changes in families. So for example, why are people marrying later? Maybe some of the social changes from the previous slides have contributed to people marrying later, and this will include higher educational opportunities. That means that people may put off marriage until they finish higher education. Other factors that have contributed may be higher employment opportunities, particularly for women, and that may mean that they are not dependent on a husband for their livelihood, and so they can marry later. Also, technology is available to prevent pregnancy, and if we think about it, this is a reason why couples married when they were young back in the days. And also, if we think about religious sanctions against sex and cohabitating outside of marriage, this has changed as well. And this was also a reason why couples married really young back in the days. So maybe now, just for you to practice and think about all these social changes and how those relate to changes in family, maybe you can select 3 consequences for families and identify at least 2 social changes from the previous slide that have influences them. I think this will really help you to understand and connect the material that we are talking about right now. Um, so now we're gonna be talking about commonalities among families. And note here the asterisk before families on the title. And this means that these are commonalities among families in the countries that we will study. So, in spite of all the changes in families occurring around the world, some things actually remain the same for families in the countries we will study. So we mentioned very briefly this earlier, and we said that families in the non-Western world tend to be extended, and that means that grandparents, aunts, and uncles are considered an important part of the families and take part in decision making, whether they actually live together in one big unit or not. Also, in your slide talks about uh, the second shift or double day. This refers to women who work outside the home yet maintain primary responsibility for home and family. And this is still the norm around the world in spite of men's contributions in the home. And this is um, due primarily to patriarchal values which say the women's roles are in the home. And then, regardless of the diversity, such as cultural, historical, or economic, that we will find in the countries we study, all societies want their children to survive and to be healthy and be able to communicate and have a good life in their own society, right? And so, if we think about this, going back to the idea of gender roles and division of labor, um, this is actually a worldwide phenomenon, and according to some of the readings you you will read soon, around the world, women earn 40% of family income, and fathers may do 30% of parenting but have no primary responsibility. And so this is what we'll be studying and we'll be talking about in the next weeks. But what you really want to ask is, why do I need to know this? And why is this important? And I want you to give me some of your ideas on this, as well as questions you may have about this information, or the responses you were asked for in some of the slides. And so just think about this and keep this information in mind for the rest of the few weeks ahead, in which we will be learning about amazing families and children from all around the world. Thank you so much.